right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and we are going to begin with our misdemeanor calendar for today, November 15th, 2024. These are a list of misdemeanor criminal cases in which individuals were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail. Soon after being booked in, their cases were formally accused by the prosecutor, who is the Solicitor General of Fulton County. Hence, this will be the defendant's initial appearance before a judge, during which time, when I call your case, I will let you know what is your new case number, what are the charges brought against you, to appoint counsel for you if necessary, and also to set a bond. We're going to be looking at your criminal history record and the allegations set forth in the arrest warrants to determine the amount of the bond and the type of the bond. For those of you who qualify for a signature bond, that's a type of bond where you would not have to pay in order to be released, but you would have to comply with certain conditions in order to make sure that you don't have your bond revoked. Others may qualify for what we call a cash bond or a surety bond. In that case, you would have to pay for the bond in order to be released, and you can do that either out of your own pocket or through a bonding company. In either event, both bonds may require you to comply with certain conditions, such as no contact with the victim, stay away from the incident location, and so forth. Please keep in mind that if you're a defendant accused of one or more misdemeanor offenses, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you choose to say during the course of this virtual and recorded proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. Who do we have first, please?
Your Honor, just one announcement before we start. Position 11 bond was posted,
Okay.
and we could start with position number 10, Ms. Kiara Smith.
Kira Smith is accused of simple assault from November 14th, 2024 under case number 24 CR 7661F. Ms. Smith, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard? Who's my pretrial?
Oh.
No pretrial? All right, Ms. Allen, if you'd like to allocate the GCIC, if you have one.
I didn't see anything on her criminal history, Your Honor. This is an incident from the 14th at about 9 a.m., so yesterday. Police were called in South Fulton to 5395 Valley Lake Road. There they met with the victim. His name is Jock Wright. He reported that during an argument and in front of their two children, ages 12 and 10 years old, the victim threw an iron at him. It struck the wall, not him, but he was fearful. He says nothing like this has happened before. We spoke with him today, and he won't be on the Zoom. I think he's working, but he would like to continue contact based on the fact that we see no criminal history. We're asking for $1,000 SOB through pretrial, no violent contact, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
Okay. Mr. McLean, anything to add?
Nothing to add, Your Honor. Thank you. No objection.
It's going to be $1,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. No further violent contact with Jock Wright. She may return to the incident location. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons and firearms. And Miss Smith, you will report to pretrial once a month, and you will attend and complete a one-day anger awareness class. And your next court date is going to be sent to your current mailing address. If you change your address, make sure the clerk's office is informed of that in writing. Thank you.
You have a seat back in the room. Your Honor, my mistake about that announcement, it's not position number 11, it's add-on number 1.
Oh, okay.
So next we can go to position number 11, Ms. Stephen.
I'm sorry, what was that position number?
11.
11. Joy Stephan is case number 24 CR 7662A, who has been accused of criminal trespass and willful obstruction of a officer from November 14th, 2024. Ms. Stefan, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Mr. Howard, any priors from Ms. Stefan?
Definitely. Is that Stevens? It's 7 total.
Joy
op-
Stevens, yes.
Open case out of the cab for shoplifting. Open case out of the cab for battery. 09 battery, simple battery, DV obstruction. Arrest. 2021 battery DV arrest.
2021 battery DV, what happened?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Ms. Allen, what's the state's recommendation?
Your Honor, the criminal trespass here and obstruction is based on the defendant refusing to leave the shelter at 2836 Springdale Road Southwest. Yesterday at about 5:30 on the 14th, she was told and given paperwork that she needed to leave. She'd broken the rules there at the facility. She refused to leave. She was asked multiple times. Eventually, police were called and again told her to leave. When she was told she was being arrested because she refused, she physically refused to move her body, and police had to call for backup to get her into the vehicle. It is noted that she has a juvenile child who was with her, and that child was released to her grandmother. We're asking for $1,000 SOB through pretrial, Your Honor. She has an open shoplifting into cab and battery. That battery's from 2021 and the shoplifting is from 2022. So we'd ask for a SOB through pretrial, but an order to stay away from the Solomon's Temple Foundation shelter at 2836 Springdale Road Southwest. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
And do we have an address on the grandmother?
I think you have to ask the defense.
I
Mr. McLean, it's going to be a $1,500 signature bond through the jail. She has to stay 200 yards away from the 2836 Springdale Road, the Solomon shelter. She's not allowed to return to that property. If she returns to that property, she'll be rearrested, and the next bond will be a surety bond. She is she's to provide a current mailing address to the clerk's office so we can send a notice for her next court date. Ms. Stevens, unfortunately, that particular shelter does not want you there, so you'll have to find an alternative location to get housing or seek out the grandmother who has your child. But you'll need to update the court with your new mailing address. Failure to do so can result in you not getting your notices and result in a bench warrant for failure to appear. No illegal drugs and no alcohol. Thank you.
could I, Ms. Stevens, you're welcome to come to 100 Peachtree Street, 16th floor, and meet with our social workers for any help you need on housing.
And this is going to be $750 on each count, so that's a $1,500 signature bond through the jail.
Thank you.
Case, please.
Let's see, right there. I'm not sure how I would give her that. Next, we go to position number 9, Mr. Rodriguez.
This is State versus Victor Rodriguez, case number 24CR7660C. Mr. Rodriguez has 4 charges stemming from a traffic incident. They are willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer, driving while license suspended or revoked, driving hit and run, failure of the driver to return to the scene of the accident, and driving following too closely. 1, 2, 3, 4. Incident date is November 14. Mr. Rodriguez, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Mr. Howard, any priors?
6. 2020 DUI conviction. 2015 DUI driving without a valid license.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. On the 14th, so yesterday at about 4:40 p.m., the victim in this case, Shalaya, that's Shalaya, last name Clayton, was driving on Cheshire Bridge. She was stopped and was waiting to turn into her apartment complex when the defendant driving a white BMW rear-ended her. She got out to engage with him. He put the vehicle in reverse and left. She was able to note his tag number. Police located the vehicle at the address associated with its owner, whose name is Edward Rodriguez. The vehicle obviously had front end damage. They made contact with the defendant, who said that the owner of the vehicle was in South Carolina. And then when asked about how the vehicle was damaged, he said, "I don't know, the owner was driving it." Police confronted him with the fact that the damage had just occurred, and he stopped being cooperative. He was detained. A show-up ID was done. The victim identified him as the person who fled the scene after crashing into her vehicle. He also refused to provide his information to law enforcement. They had to go to the leasing office, and then eventually he was fingerprinted and identified correctly. He was also seen to have an active warrant, I believe. The only convictions on his history are DUIs, at least 3, as well as a fugitive from justice conviction out of Cobb County. We're asking for a $2,000 surety, Your Honor, no driving and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
All right, thank you. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, my client is 63 years old. He has 3 years of college studying business at Tennessee State University. He works right now as a business development person for a roofing company and has in the past been a management specialist with regard to development. He states that he will come to court on time and will not skip court. We realize the arrest record is not the most pristine we've ever heard. We'd ask the court to consider a signature bond or a bond that's better than the one already set.
Okay. On the willful obstruction of an officer, that's going to be $1,000 signature bond through pretrial. On the driving while license suspended or revoked, that's $1,000 surety. The hit and run is $1,000 surety. And following too closely, that's going to be $1,000 signature bond through pretrial. This is a $4,000 split bond. Once he posts the $2,000 portion, then he will be on a reporting requirement with pretrial services, level 2. He will report to pretrial twice a month. He will be subject to random screens for illegal drugs and alcohol. He's not allowed to consume either. He's also not allowed to drive until his license is reinstated. He has adequate insurance and proper registration. If he fails to comply, the $4,000 split bond will be revoked in its entirety and a bench warrant will issue. Thank you.
You can have it back in the third one.
Next court date is November 26th for Mr. Rodriguez.
And Your Honor, I did forget to announce the reckless driving and the false info. I sent over NODs for those charges. They were basically duplicates.
All right, thank you.
Next, we go to position of the board, Mr. Brooks.
Jeremy Brooks is accused of simple battery from November 14th of this year under accusation 24 CR 76561Y. Mr. Brooks, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is Mr. Cook, Keith Cook. Any prior?
Your Honor, this was a conflict. I don't know if they found a conflict attorney, but we've been representing at various times the alleged victim. So.
Okay, so Mr. Jeremy Brooks, unfortunately, the Public Defender's Office is unable to represent you since the other interested party has been represented by the same office. So therefore, if you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to represent you, but we'll need to obtain the attorney from the conflict defense list. We do not have someone at the present time, so I'm going to appoint Maureen McLeod, and our litigation manager will get in touch with her for your next court date. But presently, we are going to proceed with the state's recommendation. On Mr. Howard, excuse me, yes, any prize on Mr. Brooks?
15. He got an open battery in state court. 2021 battery DV arrest. 2021 disorderly conduct conviction.
All right.
2019 parole violation. 2014 ag assault, ag battery, possession of a firearm during the commission, first offender. And he got some more battery DVs from 2012, 2013. And he got a probation hold,
All right. And how many cycles was that again?
15.
15 cycles. Okay, thank you. Ms. Mulcahy?
Yes, Your Honor. The incident location is 1634 Hollywood Road in Atlanta. The victim in this case is Ms. Adriana Smith. Officers arrived at the location because the victim had stated that a woman named Denitra Dawson had broken into her apartment. Ms. Dawson told officers that her husband, who is the defendant, is the leaseholder of the apartment and gave her permission to go there. The victim then told officers that she has a TPO against Ms. Dawson, but did not have a physical copy for officers to serve Ms. Dawson with. Eventually, the defendant did arrive on the scene and told officers that he had given Ms. Dawson permission to go to the apartment. While on scene, officers did observe the defendant and the victim engaged in a conversation, and they observed the defendant grab the victim by her shoulder while she was holding her son. The open case that the defendant has is against a separate victim, that is his wife, Denitra Dawson. He currently has a $600 surety bond. Given his history, that be increased to a $1,500 surety bond, that he have no further contact with Miss Adriana Smith. I will defer to the. Sorry, Your Honor.
Smith?
Yes, Adriana Smith.
Okay.
I'll defer to the court regarding the stay away. At one point, Ms. Smith stated that she didn't live in the apartment, and then she later stated that she did live there. Officers noted in the warrant that she has another address that she also uses, so I'm not exactly sure what the living situation is there. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond, and that the defendant undergo anger awareness. I would ask the court to sound for Ms. Adriana Smith.
Ms. Mulcahy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Ms. Adriana Smith? All right, she's not present. Mr. Cook? I'm sorry. So since Mr. Brooks does not have counsel at the present time, Mr. Brooks, I know you want to say something, so let's put your hand down. Put your hand down.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. We had,
You can't represent him, Mr. Cook.
no, but I just want to state, we had an alleged victim is Desiree Frazier. Did I get that wrong?
Yes.
Hold, give me 1 second. Yes, the victim is Desiree Frazier. Adriana
Okay.
Smith is the report. Hold on. Adriana Smith is the reporting party.
Okay. Yeah,
I
that
apologize.
Miss Frazier was raised the conflict. Okay.
Yeah, that was my mistake, Your Honor. I apologize for
Yeah.
that.
That's okay. So the victim in this case is Desiree what?
Is Desiree Frazier.
Okay. And is she the one who allegedly lives there, or is the stayaways moot?
No, I still think that she is. No, Miss Smith is the one who allegedly lives there.
All right. I'm sorry, folks, my odyssey is just going a little haywire. All right. Mr. Brooks, I just want to remind you that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you choose to say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. Did you have something to say, or would you like to exercise your right to remain silent?
I had something to say.
So you want to waive your right to remain silent?
Yes,
But remember, you haven't had the chance to consult with conflict counsel.
I know.
It's up to you.
Yeah, but Adriana Smith had her friends with her, and Desiree is one of her friends.
I think we've already clarified who's the alleged victim in this case.
Yeah, so Adriana Smith is the the Adriana Smith is the baby mother. Desiree is not nothing to the baby. Desiree is nothing. Desiree was a friend who Adriana had with her. They thought they were finna go confront my wife. That's what it was. Police called me from the phone to the scene. I left work to pop up on the scene.
I think you heard from the prosecutor that they were saying the arrest was based on what the officer observed when you and the victim were there.
The officer wasn't even looking at me. The officer was paying attention somewhere else.
Okay, so that would be an issue that of facts that are in dispute that would have to be sorted out either at a preliminary hearing or a trial. They cannot be sorted out at this juncture.
So I'm gonna get my bond pushed up off nothing.
I'm sorry?
I'm getting my bond pushed up off of nothing.
Your bond pushed off for nothing? I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Yeah, the state just trying to push my bond up to
To
1,500.
1,500, yes, that's what they're asking for, yes. So, Mr. Brooks, I'm not looking at the allegations of the warrant to set your bond. My biggest concern is your criminal history record and the fact that you have already one open battery case against you that is still open and pending, in addition to your prior arrests and convictions for violent offenses. Those are the factors that I'm looking at. And I am going to set a bond at 1,500 surety bond on the Ayala factor that I think you demonstrate a likelihood to reoffend. You are to have no further contact with Desiree Frazier. You may return to the property at 1634 Hollywood in Atlanta, Georgia, with a police escort. If it's verified that Miss Frazier does not live there, then you may return to that property. Otherwise, if she occupies that property, then you would need to find alternative housing and update the court with your new address within 30 days of being released. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. And your next court date is November 26th. Ms. Champion, please make a note that we'll need conflict counsel, Ms. Maureen McLeod, for this gentleman. The other open state case, is that with the state court or Superior Court?
State court, Your Honor.
All right, can we put both cases on the SAP calendar, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Next case, please.
Position number 7. Mr. Capper.
This is State versus Ronald Caffers, accused of possession of marijuana less than 1 ounce, willful obstruction of an officer, and criminal trespass causing property damage from November 13, 2024, accusation 24 CR 7663Y. Mr. Caffers, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
6/2023.
Keith Cook, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, okay. Your attorney is Mr. Cook. All right, Mr. Howard, 6 cycles, 20 what?
2023 simple battery DV. It was NOD. 2016 possession of marijuana. 2013 trespass conviction.
All right, thank you. Miss Allen? Please.
I apologize. This is an incident from the 13th of November. This took place at 2861 Main Street in East Point. Officers on patrol, observed the defendant engage in a hand-to-hand drug transaction. The individual who handed over a small amount of marijuana to the defendant in exchange for money is not named in the warrants, and I'm guessing that's why that wasn't charged. But that was the basis for why police engaged with the defendant. They made contact with him, told him that they'd witnessed this transaction. He became loud and refused to cooperate when he was told he was being put under arrest. He resisted putting his hands in cuffs, and backup had to be called. At one point, he grabbed the handle of a vehicle in the parking lot and refused to let go and just broke the handle off of a stranger's vehicle trying to avoid being arrested. That's the basis of the criminal damage charge, Your Honor. And the small amount of marijuana was what was found on his person. So he obstructed Officer Arthur Watts. We're asking for $1,000 surety and a request to stay away from the location be included on his bond. Again, that's 2861 Main Street in East Point. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, my client denies that an exchange happened at the location. There seemed to have been a bit of a substance when he was dressing out at East Point Jail. I don't believe he has any pending charges. We understand the restrictions on the obstruction. He is homeless. He gets his mail at the First Presbyterian Church on Peachtree Street. We would be asking for a signature bond at whatever level the court deems appropriate. And nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. On the misdemeanor possession of marijuana is 500 signature bond to the jail. The willful obstruction is going to be a 500 signature bond to the jail, and the damage to property is a $500 surety. It's a $1,500 split bond. Stay away from 2861 Main Street in East Point, and his next court date is November 26th.
So, Your Honor, that's 500 is the surety. 500 is the surety.
On the count 3.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we will go to position number 5, Mr. Freeman.
Montrail Freeman is accused of theft by taking and battery from November 4th of this year under case 24 CR 7658D. Mr. Freeman, you have been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any prize, Mr. Howard?
Third. I got open case out of Wisconsin. Possession of drug paraphernalia. Possession of cocaine and THC. Open case out of Louisiana. Illegal possession of a stolen firearm. Possession of a firearm or carrying concealed weapon by a convicted felon. Open case out of Clayton County. Possession of marijuana. Giving false name, tampering with evidence, possession of cocaine, and possession of a Schedule 1. That's it.
Ms. McCakey?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Howard, how many cases did you say he had out of Wisconsin? I had that he had 15 arrest cycles.
Oh, you did? Okay, that's fine. I'll look it up, but that might have been my bad.
Okay. Thank you. The victim in this case is Miss Keyshawn Keys. I have the incident location is 2424 Stone Road in East Point. Officers arrived at the location and observed the victim on the ground screaming in front of the apartment and gasping for air. She was very distraught at the time and at first was unable to explain what happened. Eventually, the victim was able to tell officers that her boyfriend, the defendant, and her were drinking and having a conversation that turned into an argument. The defendant ran up on her and tried choking her with both of his hands, so she began to fight him off. The victim stated that the defendant also beat her with a broomstick, leaving lacerations on her hands as she tried to block herself from being hit. The victim also told officers that when the defendant left, he took her iPhone and her wallet, which had $540 in it. The victim's iPhone tracking showed that its last known location was at 5796 Rock Shoals Way in College Park. The defendant and the victim have been in contact since the defendant has been in jail. They talk about his bond and how they can come up with the money for his release. The victim states that she's writing a letter to bring to the court, and the defendant tells her that she needs to find out who the DA is. The defendant implies that the victim should say that she was off of her medication, and the victim tells the defendant that he is not talking to a rookie. The victim then tells the defendant in another call that she is disappointed in him and that he knows what happened that night. The defendant tells the victim that she needs to learn how to talk to him and that she should also stop thinking so negatively. Our office has spoken with the victim, who confirms her and the defendant in a relationship. They do not live together and they share no children. She says the incident location is her residence and she denies the events that are in the warrant and the report. She stated that she was having a mental health episode and she denies that her and the defendant even had an altercation. She says that the injuries to her hand were from her throwing a bottle and it breaking, and she only called the officers because she was having a panic attack and she could not breathe. She says she's not afraid of the defendant and wants to continue contact. The state's recommendation is a $2,500 surety bond on battery, a $1,000 surety bond on the theft by taking, which is a total $3,500 surety bond, that he have no further contact with Ms. Keyshawn Keys. We understand what her wishes are, but based on the jail calls and the facts that are alleged in this report, we think it's best that these parties have no further contact. We ask that he stay away from that location, undergo some anger awareness, and have no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I believe Ms. Keys is on the Zoom. If we could please sound for her.
Yes, she is present. Ms. Keys, if you'd
Yes.
like to say anything, you need to be in a room with better lighting. I can barely see you.
That's fine. 1 second. Can you guys see me now? Can you hear me?
You can raise your right
Okay,
hand
hello.
and you need to stop moving around. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge, keeping in mind that any
Yes.
false statements can expose you to perjury?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can put your hand down. What would you like to tell the court?
I would like to tell the court that so I do deal with PTSD. I do deal with bipolar and schizophrenic. I have been taking medicine for a while, but sometimes, in my mind, if something happens that I've seen before, it makes me react. I did black out that night and I just knew I woke up, looking for my phone and stuff. I couldn't find it. And I actually went outside that time when the police found me. I was across the street from my house panicking, about to basically pass out. So when I got my, sleep and stuff, I woke up. I looked over there and my phone and my wallet and everything was over there on the side where I was having the panic attack. So that's why I'm like, the theft, you know what I'm saying? It was there. Like, even if he thought, because it was like he didn't want to be there while I was having that, because he didn't want to incriminate himself. So he left. He could have thought that that was his phone or whatnot. But when I woke up and I was like fully aware that next day, my stuff was right in the same spot that I had the panic attack.
Okay.
So,
Anything else?
no, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Please mute your screen. Ms. Mukeke, what were the dates and times of these phone conversations between Ms. Keys and the defendant?
Let me see, Your Honor. I have the recordings. Let me see if I can pull up a date and time of the actual phone calls.
So I'm sure everybody realizes that any jail communications between an inmate and anyone from the outside has not only been time spent, but also recorded. So those conversations are available to the prosecutor. All right, while we're waiting for Ms. Mukeke to give me that information, Mr. Cook, do you have anything to add?
My client is 34 years old. He's been working for years as a musician, and he's just started working as a mover. He graduated from high school, has 2 years of college. He denies the accusations as stated in the warrant. We would ask the court to take in mind the alleged victim's testimony. And so we would be seeking no further violent contact. We would be objecting to a stay away, and we would be seeking a signature bond through pretrial.
Okay. Ms. Mukeke, any?
Your Honor, the phone calls, there were 4 of them total, started on the 14th at 12:08, 12:14, 12:24, and 12:40. 4 separate phone calls from the bookend section of the jail.
And were these all phone calls identified between the defendant and Ms. Keys?
Yes, made from the booking area of the jail to her phone number, recorded phone calls.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, I am making this bond not based on what Ms. Keys has said or what Ms. Mokeke may have argued or what Mr. Cook has argued. I'm going to be looking strictly at Mr. Freeman's significant history, criminal history record, and the real-time reporting by the officer who filled out the warrant, as well as the incident report. And unfortunately, it paints a very different picture of this case. On the battery charge, it's going to be a $2,500 cash bond, and the theft by taking is going to be a $500 cash bond. Mr. Freeman, your total bond is going to be $3,000 cash only. You are to have no contact with Keyshawn Keys. You are to stay 200 yards away from her. You're not allowed to make any phone calls to Ms. Keys, and you're not allowed to share a same home with her as well. You are not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol at all, and you're not allowed to own or possess a firearm. Your next court date is going to be November 26th. And if you do make bond, please make sure you comply with these conditions. Failure to comply with these conditions can result in your bond being revoked. And in the event you get a future bond, you may be required to be equipped with an ankle monitor. So at the present time, I highly recommend that you do not make any more phone calls or accept any phone calls between you and Ms. Keys, because given the information that's been received, given this alleged statement that Ms. Keys has made, I have serious concerns about witness intimidation and tampering. Thank you.
So, next we go to position number 3, Mr. Banks.
Was that Mr. Banks?
Yes.
Okay. Position number 3 is State versus Stephen Banks under accusation 24 CR 7655G. Mr. Banks, you've been accused of giving false information to an officer from October 14th, 2024. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Mr. Howard, any prize?
11. Open case out of the cab, simple battery DV, simple battery, disorderly conduct, battery DV, violation of family violence order, 2023 trespass conviction, 2012 armed robbery, fraudulent use of credit cards, organized scheme to defraud conviction.
That's good. Thank you. Ms. Mokeke?
Yes, Your Honor. Officers observed the defendant sleep in a vehicle at the Travel Lodge located at 2471 Old National Parkway in College Park. After giving multiple commands for him to exit the vehicle and provide his identity, the defendant gave officers the fake names of Jones Johnson and Jason Johnson, and then a false date of birth of November 6th, 1986. Given his history and the fact that he has an open case, we would just ask that his current surety bond remain the same. It's currently a $600 surety, that he have no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
All right. And you all have NOD'd the willful obstruction.
Yes, it was kind of duplicative.
All right. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 37 years old. He's been a cook at Church's Chicken for 3 years. But he has a modest income. We would be asking, given the nature of the charge, which is a false name, that he receive a signature bond at whatever level the court deems appropriate.
Okay. Unfortunately, he doesn't qualify for a signature bond. Shall I increase it to 1,000 so he can bond through a surety company? Because I don't know if they take 600.
Well, that would probably be the better approach. Yes, Your Honor.
Bond is set at $1,000 surety, and he'll need to maintain a current address with the courts so that we can send him notice of when to come back to court. Our next court date is November 26th.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next we go to position number 2, Mr. Bailey.
Edward Bailey is accused of making an improper left turn and willful obstruction of an officer and misdemeanor possession of marijuana from November 14, case number 24 CR 7654C. Mr. Bailey, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is going to be Mr. Cook. Any priors?
15, 2023 battery DV, 2020 probation, 2019 simple battery no low, 2019 suspended license conviction, 2018 probation, 2017 FTA.
That's good. Thank you.
He got a probation hold too.
Okay, thank you. Is that the Superior Court?
I think so. I don't know. I'll look.
Okay. Ms. Mokeke?
I was thinking, I'm sorry, Ms. McCakey can, listen, I was thinking the possession charge was no prost. If that's wrong, I apologize. but-
I still have it up here on Odyssey. So on Ms.
Okay.
Mokeke, were you all planning to NOD that charge?
No, we did NOD a possession and use of drug-related objects charge, but we did keep the possession of marijuana.
Okay.
That
Thank you.
probation
Sorry.
is misdemeanor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mokeke, what's the recommendation for Mr. Bailey?
The recommendation for Mr. Bailey is a signature bond, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. Officers conducted a traffic stop after they saw him make that improper left turn. They noticed that he had an active warrant and then placed him in handcuffs. After placing him in handcuffs, he took flight on foot, attempted to run away from them. After a brief chase, officers were able to catch up with him, and they did observe 0.7 ounces of marijuana in the defendant's vehicle.
All right. Anything else to add, Mr. Cook?
No objection, Your Honor.
That was a surety bond, right?
Signature bond.
Or signature bond?
A signature bond.
Yeah, on the improper left turn is 500, on the willful obstruction is 500, and the misdemeanor possession for marijuana is 500. The total is going to be a 1,500 signature bond through the jail, and he can only be released once he's had his probation matter addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thorough. Thorough. Next, we go to position number 6, Mr. Gordon.
This is State versus Jason Gordon, and we can make up the case number 24 CR 7659J. Mr. Gordon, you've been accused of simple battery and simple assault from a November 14th incident of this year. You have been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors?
20. On probation. 20.
Okay,
On probation in Rockdale, giving false name, interference with government property. 2024 FTA, 2022 probation, 2022 FTA, 2022 probation.
that's good. Thank you.
You don't want the violence?
No, I've already got the FTAs. Thank you. Ms. McCakey?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred at 301 Peachtree Center Avenue Northeast in Atlanta. The victim in this case is Ms. Rosalie Chavez Ramon. The victim is employed at the Dunkin' Donuts in the food court and went to the women's restroom. When she was drying her hands, the defendant exited an occupied stall in that restroom, pushed her backwards, pushed his body against her, and tried to kiss her in the mouth. The victim was able to get away and security was contacted. When officers found the defendant, he spontaneously told the officers that he didn't touch anyone. Surveillance video does show the defendant exiting that bathroom area. Our office has spoken with Ms. Chavez Ramon, who states that the defendant kept pushing her against the wall and trying to kiss her, as was stated in the warrant. She says that she doesn't know him and has never seen him before. She, of course, wants no contact and wants him to stay away from the location. The state's recommendation is a $3,000 surety bond, $2,000 on the simple battery, $1,000 on the simple assault. No further contact with Rosalie Chavez Ramon. Stay away from that incident location. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I would ask the court to sound for the victim, Ms. Chavez Ramon.
Ms. Chavez Ramon? I have an iPhone that's unidentified. I don't know who that is. Ms. Ramon, is that you?
Yes, this is me. Hi.
Hi, could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
All right. Do you recognize the person who's in the panel called Courtroom 2?
Yes, I do.
And who is that?
That's the man that tried to sexually assault me in the restroom of my workplace.
Okay. What else would you like to tell us?
Well, it was very traumatic to me. I don't think I'm gonna be able to go back to work there anymore. And I just want him to stay away from me. I don't know why he did that. I'm
All
still
right. I understand. I
very
understand. I think the prosecutor told me what you intended to convey. I understand. Thank you. Mr. Cook, anything else to add?
Well, my client denies the allegations. I will say to the court, he is homeless. I think he's living in shelters when he can. Beyond that, I don't have much information, Your Honor.
All right. On the simple battery, that's $1,000, and that's a cash bond only. On the simple assault, that's 500, and that's a cash bond only. Total bond is going to be 1,500, cash bond only. To stay 500 yards away from the incident location, stay 200 yards away from Miss Ramon. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. And his next court date is November 26th. Mr. Gordon, in order to be released, you need to post a bond of 1,500 cash bond only, and you are to stay 500 yards away from that location and have no contact with the alleged victim. Next, we'll see you on November 26th unless you make bond. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next, we can go to position number 8, Mr. August B.
Deontay Oglesby is accused of battery family violence from 24 CR 7657H from November 14th, 2024. Mr. Oglesby, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is going to be at both of them there. Mr. McLean, okay. Any prize, Mr. Howard?
Yeah, it's his third. He just got open drug charges out of Superior Court.
Okay. Okay, Miss Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This incident happened on the 14th at about 3:15 a.m. It was initially a dual arrest. The co-defendant, who we've determined is the victim in this case, was arrested and we submitted an NOD. Her name is Cassidy Drouet, Drouet is how you spell her last name. Her first name is Cassedi. Police were called to 530 East Paces Ferry Road, apartment 1133. These individuals lived together. She called the police. She had a visibly bloody nose. She reported that she'd been assaulted by the defendant, that she'd been trying to separate from him for a period of time, but that he was abusive and it was difficult. And she'd confronted him about cheating. He struck her in the face.
I'm sorry, I don't know where that sound's coming from.
It's okay. Thank you. I apologize. The defendant was seen exiting the back of the apartment in a towel as if he'd just taken a shower. He reported that the victim came home intoxicated and argued with him. So she assaulted him and he assaulted her back. Your Honor, the police asked the defendant if there were any weapons in the location. He led them to his firearm, which they then took possession of. He is out on bond for felony drug and possession of a firearm charges. There is prior police reports made by the same victim after this defendant took her belongings out of the residence. She referred to him in a prior police report as her ex, and that seems to corroborate her statements that she's having a hard time separating herself from this individual. She was the one with the obvious visible injuries. And that's the reason for our NOD and shift in this case, Your Honor, based on the fact that this defendant's out on bond and has a firearm in his possession. Today, we would ask for a $2,000 surety, no contact with Cassidy Drouet, stay away from the location there, 530 East Paces Ferry Road, That's apartment number 1133. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, my client is 26 years old. He is a graduate of Riverdale High School and is attending Fort Valley College. He will graduate in 2025. He also had wounds from the incident. He has worked as a security person at a medical corporation for 4 years. He is also, for a half year before that, worked as an agent for another company doing commercial transactions, I believe it is. We would ask the court to consider a signature bond, or if that's not possible, then a $1,000 surety bond.
All right. What's your client's current address?
I have down here the 1500, I'm sorry, the 500 Cleveland 116, but I don't know. Is that the incident address?
No, it's in Paces Ferry.
Okay. Well, then the 500 Cleveland apartment 116 ought to do then for mail. Is that correct, Mr. Oglesby? You get good mail service and live there?
Yes, that's my grandma's address, but that's where all my mail and stuff go.
Is that
Well,
where you,
Where you'll be going. So
is that, oh, yes. Is that where you sleep?
that's
No,
where you're sleeping.
I sleep in Buckhead at the address where the
You're not
incident.
anymore, no.
All right. We're gonna need to ask for a one-time escort, Your Honor.
Understood. Bond is going to be set at 5,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. This is going to be level 3. He's going to report to pretrial once a week. He is going to enroll in a domestic violence intervention program within 30 days of being released. He must attend every one of those 26-week classes without any skipping or forwarding any of those classes. No contact with Cassidy Droulet, to stay away from 530, what's that, East Paces Ferry in Atlanta?
Yes,
And
Your
he
Honor.
may return to that location one time only with a police officer to remove his belongings. After that, he'll need to make sure that either the Cleveland Avenue is his current address, or he updates the court with a verifiable mailing address within 30 days of being released. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, no firearms. He must surrender any and all firearms he owns to the police for destruction within 48 hours of being released. And and his next court date will be set to his current address, whichever one it is, except the Paces Ferry one. Any questions, Mr. Oglesby?
Oh, man,
Yep, you got it. Thank you.
Next, we will go to petition number 1, Mr. Allen.
This is State versus Calvin Allen charged with driving with defective or no taillights and willful obstruction from November 14th, case 24 CR 7653F. Mr. Allen, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors?
Yeah, he got a fugitive hold. That's probably why the arrest came. 2021 out of Tennessee, possession of meth, tampering with evidence. Got another open case in Tennessee for theft by receiving or concealing. 2019 probation. 20s. Okay,
Oh, that's good. I just needed to know where the hold was. Thank you.
Tennessee.
Ms. Mokeke, on the driving with defective headlights is going to be a 500 signature bond through the jail, and the willful obstruction is going to be a 2,000 signature bond through the jail. Total bond is 2,500, but he cannot be released. He can only to be released to the Tennessee hold, so they will need to come by and extradite him to Tennessee. Mr. Allen, you've got a signature bond through the jail from this case, but you cannot be released. Tennessee will need to come and extradite you back to Tennessee. In the meantime, this is still an open active case. So once you resolve the Tennessee matter, make sure that you report back to Fulton County. Maintain a current address with the court at all times. Thank you. I think just go down the calendar right now. Our add-on case involving Jalen Smith has been released, so that's further notice for trial. Position number 1, Allen, is a 2,500 signature bond through the jail. Position 2 is a 1,500 signature bond through the jail, no release probation hold. Position 3 is $1,000 surety, reset November 26th. Position 4 is a $1,500 surety, reset November 26th. Position 5 is a $3,000 cash bond only, November 26th. Gordon is a $1,500 cash bond, reset November 26th. K-First is a split bond, 1,500 split bond, 500 surety, and 1,000 signature bond through the jail. 8 Oglesby is a 5,500 signature bond through pretrial, level 3 with the DBIT requirement. 9 Rodriguez is a $4,000 split bond, 2,000 surety, 2,000 signature bond through pretrial, level 2, no driving. Kira Smith is a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial, level 1. And last but not least, Joy Stevens is a 1,500 signature bond through the jail. All right, folks, we good? Correct? Any corrections? No? Okay, well, this is the start to a beautiful weekend, so everyone enjoy, unless you're lucky and you get to see me tomorrow.
I'll be here tomorrow.
All right, Miss Allen, but where the smile? You said, you'll be here. Let's see.
Yeah, a job's a job.
All
Okay.
right, everyone, be safe. See you later.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
Take care.
Go dogs.
Go dogs.